What's going on, everybody? Good to see y'all. Thanks for jumping on in. We won't have Sheets today. He's off taking his son back to school. So good luck to Matt back in UVA. And yeah, we're going to get into this slate. I'll be here till probably about 6:20, and we're going to talk through all the plays that I'm doing, and we'll have some back and forth. Pop in questions, pop in thoughts, pop in what you're liking along the whole way. And I'm going to go with what I'm going to do here. So I still really like the Toronto-Baltimore game. I like Minnesota. Texas and the Dodgers are my main teams. I do think the Dodger thing is a little fishy. Like Peralta's a really good pitcher. It's a good bullpen, but the Dodgers can kill any righty. So when you have a bunch of question marks, I'm never going to fault it. So I do like them, but I don't feel like it's a must of any by any means. There is some weather concerns in the Atlanta game, and there's some weather concerns in the the Washington game. I was initially interested in maybe taking another shot on Josiah Gray. I'm probably not going to do it in the high buy-ins right now. Certainly not as long as there's weather in Washington, which is like the scariest place to have weather because of how they call games. But I am going to be, high on overweight on the Baltimore side of things today. Toronto, as I mentioned, Minnesota, Texas, and the Dodgers. The Dodgers are my lowest owned of that group. And even with the Texas, I think there's a lot of different ways you could stack it. The weird one is I like Joe Ryan a lot today, but I also like the Royals stack because the pricing is just maybe you use it as a mini stack, maybe you do it in a 4-4. But if you're not playing Joe Ryan, I think that you could really argue that value wise between Pasquantino, I mean, basically everybody's like minimum. So you can basically do whatever you want, play Cole and Ohtani and play those two guys. So anyway, that's where I'm at. All right. Pitching wise, I do love, I think that Garrett Cole is a great option, but I don't think we need to play him or Ohtani, who I think are pretty clearly the two top projected scoring guys. I think Castillo is every bit as good. I always worry, you would worry about a Castillo, is he going to, he just threw 114 pitches or 110 pitches. He does it every time out. He basically is always throwing in the low 100s to, he throws, he throws over 100, 11 out of his last 12 starts. And you put him up against this Angels team, it's really hard not to like him. So it's a very good chance that he's going to be in my biggest buy-in lineup. And right now I have Joe Ryan with him. I don't think I need to do it, so I might switch it up. But I do like Joe Ryan for what it's worth, and I think there is a lot of upside there. And I think that you're going to get low ownership on him as well, which is nice on a slate that's playing kind of small. Other guys, Cole Ohtani are my highest owned non-Castillo. And then Strider and Cobb are the other two, but I need to figure out the weather in that Atlanta game to know if I can feel comfortable with using Strider in big buy-in stuff. Positions, I'm going to run through real quick. Highest owned catchers, Will Smith, Adley Rutschman, Jose Trevino, Gary Sanchez. First base, Vlad, Pasquantino, Miranda, first or third, and Nate Lowe. Second base, Urias for Baltimore, Simeon, Massey, Polanco. Third base, Chapman, Josh Smith in my Texas stacks only. Miranda, again, I mentioned him first or third. I really like Miranda today. And Edwin Rivera is my favorite cheapie that we can use in the infield. And I just think this guy's got some pop, and he's hot right now. He had 2 home runs the other day, had a home run the day before that. So even in San Fran, I think he's an interesting one-off to take at really a cheap price. Shortstops, Seager, Turner, Bichette are the best. I also am using Mateo in my Baltimore stacks. Outfield, Springer, Gurriel, McKenna, Betts, Judge, Garcia, Buxton, Kyle Tucker are my favorites. Value, McKenna and Nick Gordon are my favorites for value. So let's jump over to it. Is Arizona a good stack today? I don't like them at all. I understand that they're getting spit out some places, but I would not be stacking Arizona. If I did, it would be a little 3-man with using guys like Rivera. I don't really want to mess around and take a full Arizona stack on the worst hitters park in baseball against a guy who's been really good and very unlucky this year in Alex Cobb. So I do not like Arizona tonight. Talking Eric off the Mets. It's fine to play the Mets. I mean, you got to worry about there's still a little weather concerns. I think it's fine. I don't see any reason you need to get, it's what we always talk about, Eric. Eric always likes to do the super contrarian, whatever. And Strider is a guy you can try to attack. He's a young guy who he's going to have some high variance, but I don't personally see it like and go, oh my God, I need to play the Mets against Strider, but I think it's fine. It sort of fits a little bit into the playing the Dodgers mold today. I think they're kind of similar-ish stacks. I think the Dodgers are a little better, but I don't have a problem with it. I'm not doing it myself, but I certainly don't have an issue with it if you want to go Mets, because I do think there is some variance in Strider and all these young pitchers in general. I think you're going to same thing with Joe Ryan, but Strider just happens to be a little bit better and more electric. Let's see. I'm trying to see what's happening to Rich B. What's happening to Kevin? If you were to stack the Orioles in Toronto and Twins, how would you stack it? Well, I wouldn't put them. I mean, I guess you could do a 3-3-2 in that, but mostly if I'm going to stack them, I have 4-4 stacks with the Orioles and Toronto, a few places. For each of the stacks, if we're going each of the stacks, Miranda and Buxton are my main plays from Minnesota. I think Gary Sanchez at the bottom of the order with just the power upside is worth taking a shot on. So and then Nick Gordon would be the 4 guys who I like the most. And you throw Polanco in, then you've got your 5-man stack. So Correa is fine, but I like the other shortstops in his price range better than him. But he's totally fine if you're going to make that full stack. So that's what I would do for them. For the other stacks, Vlad, Springer, and Chapman are my favorites from Toronto. And then you get into the playing Gurriel as a part of the stack. Playing basically anybody in their lineup is pretty viable. It's just going to come down to pricing and things like that. But I do like the Toronto stack quite a bit tonight against Bradish, who's reverse splits guy. Teoscar would be, I guess, the other guy for me. And I like Teoscar better than I like Gurriel, but he's just obviously a lot more expensive. And I don't think either of those guys get as much ownership because I think it'll go to Springer. So maybe if you thought your lineup was a little too chalky, maybe you throw in Teoscar instead of Springer. I think that'll be the lower owned version. And I don't mind Witt at the bottom of the order if you wanted to get different with that stack. He's only he's 4K, but second base eligible also, and he's going to be really, really low owned. So I don't mind that. And you can always use Jansen, who's a pretty underrated hitting catcher because Kirk's been so good this year. So that's the way I would do them. And then Baltimore, I mean, Rutschman is their best hitter. Even in the lefty-lefty, I don't mind it. But McKenna at 2K, Mountcastle at 3.5, Urias at 3K, Mateo at 3.6. There's power upside in all those bats. Austin Hayes at 3.3. And I think it's worth taking that shot against Kikuchi, who's been lit up by these guys a couple times. 5 home runs in the last 9 innings against them in those last 2 starts. And if you can get those 3 home runs off of him in 5 innings again tonight, hopefully it'll be our guys. I like them. I always feel like for some reason, every time I seem to get to Mateo or Urias, they get there. And every time I try to stack Baltimore without them, they don't get there. Obviously, Santander is a better hitter than those guys are, but you could throw them in for their power upside at the cheap prices. All right. So that's what I'm going to do there. Mets, Dodgers. Yeah, I think that's fine. Again, you're getting way off the board, with the Mets side of it, which is, I think, again, it's a viable spot to try to do that if you're going to take that chance. But don't be upset if you see that they've been no hit through 6. Like, I wouldn't be surprised about that either at all. Strider has this is going to sound blasphemous, but you could argue that Strider has the best stuff on the slate going forward. Maybe not this year, but he probably has the most electric stuff of anybody on this slate from a strikeout perspective. With the exception of, I guess you could say, exception of Cole and Ohtani now. But I would bet heading into next year that Strider is definitely the better strikeout per inning pitcher. Obviously, doesn't have the same leash as those guys. Good luck to Eric. Good luck to you, Eric. Always good to see you in here, buddy. Glad you still pop on in. Pop on into the Discord sometimes and get some stuff going. You got a lot of interesting thoughts, so I think you'd have some fun with some people. So jump on in our Discord sometime. All right, pop in some more questions, pop in some more thoughts. Again, I want to get another weather report before I decide anything on Strider or the Mets, obviously. But Josiah Gray also is another one I would like to get something on because I think that there is upside for Gray in this matchup. He was pitching really well against them last week and then just had a bad 7th inning, gave up that home run, which only gave up 2 runs in the game in 6 innings. But had he gotten through the 7th, he would see that 25 against this team instead of that 16. Because he would have probably got the win as well. They had a little lead, and I played him in that matchup, and he was looking good. Just didn't quite end up getting there. But electric stuff for Josiah Gray, high range of outcomes. And most likely, yeah, he probably doesn't put up a winning score. But when he does, you'll be one of the very few people who has him. And he, of the guys below 8K, he and Joe Ryan would stand out as maybe, the guys I wouldn't be surprised to see a 25 or a 35 from. Maybe 35 would be reaching a little too far, but 25 to 30, I think, is certainly reasonable. Joe Ryan, has had some tough ones. He did one thing that does concern me about Joe Ryan here, and that's something that I'm probably going to talk myself out of a little bit. He actually has a leash. He threw 110 pitches that start against the Dodgers, and they actually got to him. I think that's a little concerning that it's a career high pitches in the last time out. Will they be a little careful with it? Now they're playing to win. This team is still fighting, but it's a little concerning to see a guy throw his career high and then to play him on his next day when he's a big part of the future of their plans there in Minnesota. So that's a little something to worry about. Oh, Rhodey likes Gray too. This might be the thing. Look, hey, remember who said it, guys? I've been on the Gray train, and I'm not saying it's going to be this year, but this guy, I think very soon. I don't trust the coaching staffs in Washington particularly, or what they're doing with their team, but the guy's got incredibly electric stuff. So there's a lot of guys like that who can put it together, and you can get a Joe Ryan it wouldn't be that surprising to see Joe Ryan and Josiah Gray right there with the top guys today. And they obviously are saving a lot of money. Do you need to? There's some good value out there. Maybe not. But if you want to play the Yankees, who I think are another really interesting stack that I didn't even really get to, I'm mostly using the Yankees as mini stacks, like a Judge Trevino, Glaber or something, or Judge Trevino LeMahieu, or Judge Trevino Donaldson would actually probably be my favorite. I don't mind if you want to include anybody else, any of the other guys I mentioned, or throw in the lefty for Rizzo at low ownership. I think that's reasonable as well. There's definitely a lot of ways to go, but I'm feeling pretty good about taking my shots with this Baltimore situation. I'm sort of surprised that no one else is getting on this, especially with the success that they've had specifically against Kikuchi. So I am going to take my shots and try to beat up Kikuchi a little bit. And for what it's worth, if I do have a Kikuchi lineup separately, just a little bit of a hedge, but also he's a streak pitcher. He doesn't really have much of a leash. You could argue that he's a reasonable play. I can't quite get to him as like a priority, but I did throw him into the guys who I threw into lineups that I maybe didn't mention, or I threw him into one. It's really just him. Everybody else I think I've mentioned. So that's where I'm at there. Pop on in any more questions, guys, any more thoughts, and we will get this thing moving. Let's make some money tonight. I want to have a good night. Came up a little short in golf, but had a chance with my 6 of 6. I only played a few lineups in the big, reasonably sized buy-ins, and I had a chance at the big 200 single entry. Just couldn't quite get there on Sunday, but came damn close. Also had a good Friday on DK, but didn't quite, make all the money. Just one of those, you finish in the teens of the big tournament, and it's always like, okay, another one extra home run, the ball hits top of the wall a couple times for you, instead of going over, and that's basically the difference between you winning 40 to 100K or winning 3K or 2K. All right. Looks like the questions are drying up, which means I will get out of here pretty soon. Beat up the Gucci a little bit. That's pretty funny, Willie. I can't believe I read that out loud. I'm glad I don't still work at certain other sites. I think they would be upset with me for just even repeating it, but I think it's pretty funny. Actually, maybe they wouldn't be. Things have gotten a little bit looser these days. What else can we talk about this week that's happening? Well, we've got football coming up soon. That's going to be exciting. I'll be recording a video with Evan on how to use certain tools that we have. We're also adding some more stuff, and that's something to keep an eye out for at TrueDFS. For those of you who are members and saw my early lineup builds, they're still very similar to what they were. I just had to, there was some of the lineups came out a little different. It's a Monday, so it's going to happen. So I had to make some adjustments, but haven't really adjusted all that much from my initial thoughts on this slate. No problem, Jason. Happy to help as we can. If you're not in our Discord, jump on in the Discord. I'm going to pop it on in here because the Discord is currently free and it will not be forever. So we want to get you guys in here while we can all enjoy it, and then see if you want to stick with us and stay in there. But hopefully that Discord link I just popped up a little bit. The one other pitcher that I'm just sort of flirting with, but not quite committing to, is Urquidy. I just think that that there's enough upside here against a team that literally hasn't been able to touch right-handed pitching. It kind of feels weird to me to not play him at, what's his ownership that I've got here? What does Sheets have him at? Let's see. 2%. I mean, that guy is another one that it wouldn't surprise me if he was right up there on this slate. So, I guess Urquidy and Carrasco are the two that you could get really weird with if you had a really chalky build. But I'm not doing a ton of it, but I do think that's a viable route if you weren't going to play the guys I already mentioned. Favorites being Castillo, Cole, and Ohtani, followed by Joe Ryan, Alex Cobb, Strider as my next three. It feels weird to say Joe Ryan with saying, well, we have good pitching options, but I definitely think that there's enough upside for him. Has struggled with lefties. They put 6 out there against him, a little bit worrisome, but these aren't like that's why everybody's minimum. You have Nate Eaton, Michael Massey, Pasquantino, who's got some pop for sure, but also the strikeouts. The top 3 are pretty solid with Melendez, Witt, and Perez, but you get 2 righties in there in that situation. So I'm sort of into the Joe Ryan idea today, and I hope it doesn't bite me, but I do like Joe Ryan's upside, and I'm a little bit surprised that not more people are playing him. Otto, I didn't find the reason to get there. So I would rank that Otto play basically the same as Kikuchi. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to do completely. But I just don't know that we need it. The value that is. And that's why I didn't really need to get to the Kikuchi. And look, you could get weird and play Kikuchi with Otto lineup and get strange with it and hope that you're 15 to hope maybe 20, but probably more like 15 fantasy points from each of them. Somehow, beat the 25 from the top guys tonight. The guys who get 50 from their pitcher. And then maybe your stacks win it for you if you want to stack up the expensive bats. So I have no problem with it, but I'm not doing it myself personally. Certainly not. I certainly would say that there are worse plays that are made than playing Otto and Kikuchi today. I'm just not big on actually doing it myself. And I think that of the two, I think Kikuchi is a slightly better play, but I think that you could easily argue for me that Otto is just because of the matchup. So I could see it. I could definitely see you arguing either way, but they're secondary pieces for me. They're not prime guys. I don't need them. So I don't really, like I mentioned, I'm just going to real quick go through like the slew of just value guys we've got today. I mentioned Rivera. You've got basically the entire KC lineup. Brandon Crawford is still 2K. Nick Gordon's 2K in a stack that I like. Chad Pinder's 2K against Otto, which I like. Brad Miller is 2K as part of a Texas stack. I like that. Dubon is 2,500 leading off. There's just a lot of guys. Bubba Thompson in the Texas stack batting 8th, and that's fine too. Cal Stevenson is another one you could use against Otto. And I actually think that in the same vein that I like the Royals a little bit, I think you could make an argument for the A's because of the pricing. Seth Brown, Chad Pinder, Cal Stevenson, and you could even throw Jonah Bride in there, and then you could literally pick the 2 best pitchers and use any 4 bats you want because you were paying 2K, 3,300, and 2K, which is in case you guys don't realize, it's pretty cheap. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm at for today. I hope we see everybody in Discord. I hope we see some screenshots tonight. I hope we get start living that screenshot life, and let's make some money, everybody. Let's do it. Good luck to everybody, and hopefully we'll see you at the top of the leaderboard.